All right. 17.1, potential board action on the personal consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
Mrs. Budzik,
Aye.
Mrs. Lammle,
Aye.
Mrs. Grove,
Aye.
and Mrs. Petropoulos.
Aye.
17.2 is notice of resignation for Matthew Bauer on April 14th and Ayat Hassan on June 9th. 17.3, potential action to approve a contract with Edu Healthcare for Daniel Hoover for social work services at Ridge Central at $73 an hour for the 23-24 school year.
I'll second it.
Mrs. Lammle.
Aye.
Mrs. Grove.
Aye.
Mrs. Lebudzick
Aye.
and Mrs. Petropoulos.
Aye.
17.4, potential board action to approve a leave of absence for Tahir Litter, parent liaison at Ridge Lawn beginning August 7th, 2023, and returning on September 1st, 2023.
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
Mrs. Grove,
Aye.
Mrs. Lebudzick,
Aye.
Mrs. Lammle,
Aye.
and Mrs. Petropoulos.
Aye.
17.5, potential board action to approve fiscal year 23-24 salaries at an increase of $2 or 6%, whichever is greater for the individual employee for non-union employees. Can we get a motion?
I'll make the motion. Second.
Mrs. Lebudzick,
Aye.
Mrs. Grove,
Aye.
Mrs. Lammle,
Aye.
and Mrs. Petropoulos.
Aye.
17.6, potential board action to offer employees a 10-hour day schedule from 6/12/23 through 7/28/23.
I'll make the motion. I'll second it.
Mrs. Lammle,
Aye.
Mrs. Lebudzick,
Aye.
Mrs. Grove,
Aye.
and Mrs. Petropoulos.
Aye.
17.7, potential board action to approve hiring a seasonal technology assistant from 6/5/23 through 8/18/23. Can we get a motion?
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
Mrs. Grove,
Aye.
Mrs. Lammle,
Aye.
Mrs. Lebudzick,
Aye.
and Mrs. Petropoulos.
Aye.
17.8, potential board action to approve hiring of custodial summer help from 6/5/23 through 8/18/23.
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
Mrs. Lebudzick,
Aye.
Mrs. Lammle,
Aye.
Mrs. Grove,
Aye.
and Mrs. Petropoulos.
Aye.
17.9, potential board action to authorize administration to prepare and submit an application for community-oriented policing services, also known as the COPS grant.
I'll make the motion. Second.
Mrs. Lammle,
Aye.
Mrs. Grove,
Aye.
Mrs. Lebudzick,
Aye.
and Mrs. Petropoulos.
Aye.
17.10, potential board action on resolution releasing closed session minutes and destruction of verbatim recordings 18 months and older. Can we get a motion?
I'll make the motion. Second.
Mrs. Grove,
Aye.
Mrs. Lebudzick,
Aye.
Mrs. Lammle,
Aye.
and Mrs. Petropoulos.
Aye.
Can we get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion. Second.
Mrs. Lebudzick,
Aye.
Mrs. Lammle,
Aye.
Mrs. Grove,
Aye.
and Mrs. Petropoulos. We are adjourned at
Aye.
9:15. Did I not even give you a
You
chance?
didn't even give me a chance.
Have a great evening and happy birthday.